2,000 years ago, an alien videotaped his attempt to educate a caveman. The Prometheus and Bob tapes.
Hey, they can't with us.
What's up, Bills Mafia? How is everybody doing tonight? This is Sunday in February. We are your hosts, a couple of faces of Bills Mafia, as we are the official network of the original Bills Mafia. I got my brother, Michael the Caveman Lisman, in the building with myself. I'm Justice General Rafford, and we are going to be doing half of the hosting duties tonight. And we might have a special guest. Got to get permission from his wifey, so we'll see what happens with that. But how you doing? How you doing, Mike? We missed week 1, so we're coming back to recap week 2, preview week 3, and we haven't talked since before the first game, and a lot has happened. But how you feeling, man?
Good, man. I'm ready to go. I'm excited to get into it. Like you said, there's plenty for us to talk about, and I'm excited to get your thoughts on what's happened over the last few weeks. And I know you had a new experience yourself this Monday night that I want to hear all about. So we'll definitely indulge into everything tonight. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great one. And might as well go ahead and kick it off and get started. Well, we're going to not exactly recap week 1, but we might have some things that we need to reference from week 1, because there's a couple teams that are, scratch your head when you think about what they're doing versus what you thought they would probably do. And one of those teams we're probably going to talk about is the Denver Broncos. All right, let's start with the Broncos. They took an L to Seattle, and I believe this last weekend they barely came away with a W. I forgot who they played, but it didn't look good. I do remember that. What's your thoughts on Denver and what you thought they were versus what they actually have turned out to be?
I got to be honest with you. I did not think much of Denver going to the season. I was on the bandwagon. It still isn't fine. I was on the bandwagon of believing that the Denver Broncos would see their best years with Russell Wilson.
They beat the Texans by 7, 16-9. That's nice.
It was ugly too. I mean, they've been struggling tremendously. Of course, we all saw the week 1 blunder. Nate Hackett had his hiccup at the end of the game. 2 fumbles on the goal line between Javonte and Melvin. It was a tough week 1. They somewhat bounced back in week 2, but as a Broncos fan, I wouldn't be too optimistic about how things are going. But like I said, personally going to the season, I was of the belief that the Denver Broncos would see their better years with Russell Wilson under center, maybe 3 to 5 years from now. They're going to need a little bit of time to, 1, get on the same page, get familiar with each other, and 2, just wait for the rest of the AFC talent to die down. And then I think that's when they'll really start to rise from the pack, if you will. So, I mean, I'm not entirely shocked by their 1-1 start, but I am shocked in the fashion that it's happened. It's been ugly.
That's actually a really good point. Looking at the access of talent in the AFC, there looks like to be at least 1 juggernaut in the AFC, maybe 2, maybe, and that's a strong maybe. So, you especially look at the AFC West. We're going to get into the AFC West a little later, but first, we have to bring on a man who dog bet is that the Seattle Seahawks will not win more than 4 games this year. They're already a quarter of the way there beating the Denver Broncos, but my man Jake Jordan is in the building. He got permission from wifey. What's going on, Jake? How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling great, and I'm telling you guys right now, that was the one game they're gonna win all season. That's the one game. I said it on first round bye. They're winning 1 game, and it might be that one. It's the only one they'll win all season.
All right, we'll see what happens. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the AFC West. I'm not going to tease Jake too much about the Seahawks. because they still have to win more games before I can do that. Although that first W was not expected, to say the least, right?
Maybe that's easy for you to say. I told you.
Oh wait, you expected that?
Yeah, remember I have a clip of first round bye. I'd upload it right here if I can, but I told you I was like, Justice, I will not be surprised.
Built different.
Oh, sorry, built different now. And this, I said, Justice, don't be surprised if this is the one game all season that they win. And you were like, what is the basis for you saying this?
You said that?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. If you said that, I apologize. I didn't realize you said that, but
there was no basis for them winning that game.
No, there was. I literally
be very clear on that.
I said they're going to be mad. That's about it. They're going to want to beat Russ. That's literally the only thing I can say.
And they
didn't even beat them. They beat themselves. The Broncos beat themselves.
But it didn't seem like it seemed like Pete Carroll knew what would make Russell Wilson a little comfortable and definitely, beat that too.
I mean, Tyler Lockett was saying he was using the same hand signals. Like,
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Come on, man.
You can't do that. All right, so we're going to get into the AFC West. I'm excited because I feel like they're all looking suspect. All right, so AFC West, of course, we'll start and we'll go from, all right, let's go from the bottom to the top because, save the best for last, of course. The 0-2 team is the team who maybe a lot of people thought would be better this year. And, of course, that is the Las Vegas Raiders. They lost 2 heartbreakers, but now they are 0-2. They have 1 loss in the conference, 1 loss out of conference, 1 divisional loss, which is going to hurt, obviously, losing to the Chargers in a close game. But what do you guys think of the Raiders? Mike, I'll start with you. Devontae Adams looks good. Derek Carr looks decent. What's not working?
I think what's not working right now is Derek Carr. I'll admit it. I'm the biggest Derek Carr supporter you'll come across. In all of the football land. That's not a Raiders fan, but the first week of football, I thought they outperformed their expectations going into a game against what seems to be powerhouse Los Angeles Chargers, and they held their own. Bad offensive line going against one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL. I think they only lost by 4 or 5 points, if I'm not mistaken. Devontae Adams had his way. But this is going to be a struggle for Derek Carr throughout the season. When Devontae Adams is taken away, he's got to get on the same page as these other guys that he's actually played with for the last few years now. So we saw in week 2, I think that was a portion of the problem is that he was not able to kind of get away from Devontae Adams. And I think his first read was constantly Devontae Adams. And if it wasn't there, he was kind of getting a little flustered. And by that time, he was going to make his second read. The offensive line wasn't time. So the Las Vegas Raiders have a lot of work to do. I didn't think they were going to be a team that blew the top off of their division, but I do have them making the playoffs as a wild card team. And right now, starting off 0-2 behind the 8 ball in that division, it's not looking too hot at the moment.
I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but I don't think any of the teams look too hot. But Jake, can the Raiders turn it around? What do they need to do to turn it
around? I really feel like it's just kind of growing pains. I mean, I know we all kind of had this expectation for the Raiders to go out and kind of be this team that was going to lead, and they've got the talent there, but it's like Josh McDaniels, while it's not his first time being a head coach, it's his first time being a head coach in a minute. So like, I think they're still trying to figure that out. Derek Carr, when has Derek Carr ever had a weapon like Devontae Adams? So he's getting used to having a guy that, a true number 1 out there. So like Mike was saying, that's his first read every time he's looking right at him. He kind of needs to learn how to get past that. And it's kind of hard to say for a guy who's been in the league for so damn long. But like, he's going to have to learn that. I think they're going to get it right here. I believe they get the Titans next. That's their first game after this. And they've played close games. I mean, the Chargers are another team that we've been like, look, they're out talent-wise. They're loaded. They lost, I believe that was 20. I'll look right here, 24-19. And then the Cardinals, we all watched that game. They go to overtime and the Cardinals pull it out. So yeah, the Titans, I think that's a get right. Then they get the Broncos after that, who, look I don't know. Hackett isn't hacking it right now, and then they get the Chiefs, so they could be 2-2 going into the Chiefs. I think that they can turn it around. Their schedule isn't too difficult.
All right. Hackett isn't hacking it right now, and we kind of just briefly went over the Broncos. I don't want to get too much into them. I feel like they're a little bit of a boring team. I thought they were going to be a lot more explosive, and they just haven't been. And I don't really think there's too much compelling stuff to talk about with the Denver Broncos. So unless you guys object, I think we should move on to the Los Angeles Chargers.
I will say one thing about the Broncos. My sorry ass had – I'm sorry. I'm a sorry picker of games. I had the Denver Broncos in my survivor pool in the first week. I'll just throw that out.
No. That was a good pick. It just – they sucked. There was no way you could know they would suck like that.
You needed to talk to me before you made that pick, Mike.
I was so good in my picks last year. I was perfect. I was damn near perfect in the last like 5 or 6 weeks. In the first 2 weeks of this year, I feel like I don't have a damn clue what I'm talking about anymore. And I never did in the first place, but I kind of felt some sort of confidence with those picks throughout last season. And so far this year, I'm feeling completely pedestrian. But yeah, that's all I got.
We're the embodiment of we don't know S about F.
Yes, you are right about that.
I think all of us that are in locker rooms are probably a part of that group, but I think some of us make better guesses than others. So, hey, Jake, there's a reason they call him Nostradamus. So, and also let me go ahead and send a very special shout out to 26 Shirts. So this program, this network is sponsored by 26 Shirts. So shout out to those guys as well as Del Reed over there. You guys will be hearing a lot more about them in the coming years while we build this brand to be the best brand in Bills Mafia. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with the Chargers, right? Now, Chargers is some people's Super Bowl pick, right? You got, Justin Herbert is the second coming of Jesus, right? Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler, and Khalil Mack, and Jason Jackson, and Joey Bosa, and right? They barely beat the Raiders in week 1. And then they did everything in their God-given power to lose the game versus the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes threw 7 near interceptions, or should have been interceptions, and he got snaked out of every single one of them somehow. But with that being said, the Chargers didn't capitalize on a lot of those errant throws. And, they made attempts to come back. And I say this about Justin Herbert all the time. Yes, he will make a beautiful throw that is just from the heavens above, like, wow, no one else can make that throw on 4th and 10. But it's only because he threw 3 incomplete passes on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down. So, I can't give him too much credit. And the game versus the Chiefs felt like the exact embodiment of how I feel about Justin Herbert, right? I know he's talented. I know he can make all the throws, but he is just super duper inconsistent. And then he's good enough to be able to bail himself out at the last moment. But, sometimes that last moment doesn't come and you throw a 99-yard interception and lose you the game. So, Jake, I'm going to start with you this time.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the Chargers? Do you think they are actually a Super Bowl contender? And what do they have to do to get there?
The Chargers is the Chargers. We know this. That's all I could think about watching that Chiefs game is that this is the second year now. Or no, this will be the 3rd year where I consistently see the Chargers not capitalize and not able to get over that hump already. It's week 2. I mean, this could be overreaction already. But that Chiefs game just looks like every other time. If they want to prove that they're going to be that guy, they got to make, that's a big-time game playing the Chiefs. That's a team that everybody's like, that's one of the big dogs. And they just never seem to be able to truly capitalize. There's always some mistake that's stopping them from being able to win. And when I think about that, I'm like, what do they do in the playoffs? That's where you face all big dogs. You can't have these blunders. So playoff contender, sure. Super Bowl, I don't think so. I think they're still just they just have these boneheaded mistakes and decisions that make me go, I just don't think they're there yet. And maybe it'll take them getting to the playoffs, learning a little bit to be able to take that next step. And, as their coaching staff evolves, because McDermott wasn't perfect when he started. So it takes time. Coaches have to develop just like players. But right now, it just shows me every time they get in the big moments, they just don't step up and capitalize.
That's a great point. Coaches definitely do take time to develop. However, I propose this question to you, Caveman. You look at the Chargers, they should have, and probably about it, they should have made the playoffs last year. They had ample opportunities to do it, and it seemed like they lost a lot of close games due to coaching. In that Chargers, in the Chargers versus Chiefs game, your quarterback throws a 99-yard interception. Okay, that sucks. You're down by 10, and your quarterback gets slammed to the ground, can barely walk, like screaming in pain. He's at the point where it's 3rd and 1, and he is 2 feet away from the first down, and he's just so much pain he throws it away for no reason at all. Right? Of course, the next play was absolutely godly with that throw he made in the touchdown pass, but it can be argued, should he have been in the game? When it's over at that point, chances are you're probably not going to win. And this is the guy who you want to lead your team for the rest of the season, not just a 10-point game in week 2 with 2 minutes left. Do you think this Chargers coaching staff, their coaching prowess, is enough to make them a winning organization this year?
Man, I think that's part of the issue that is going to hold the Chargers back. Same thing with the Raiders. I think Josh McDaniels, I think it was Jake that partially touched on it. There are these teams that have these loads of talent on the offensive side of the ball, or on both sides of the ball, depending who we're talking about, and it's their coaching staff that doesn't seem to be setting their team up for success. It's the offensive coordinator not making the correct play calls. It's the head coach making the wrong calls on 4th down. Whatever the case might be, it seems like the fingers being pointed to the coach more often than not. You could say that about the Broncos right now. I think you could partially say it for the Raiders. I think you 100% say it about the Chargers. You've been able to say it about the Chargers for the last 3 years now. Specifically with the Chargers, though, we're looking at a team that has probably the most star-studded talent, across the roster. They're not the most well-rounded. I think their depth is a bit of a concern. Keenan Allen has missed. He just missed last week, or I think he exited the game early. But their depth could be a concern. But nevertheless, you got a guy in Brandon Staley who was a nutcase on 4th down last year. It could have been 4th and 10 in his own half, and he's going for it. This time around, we're into you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, who seem to have this ability to force the other team to want to go for their 4th downs. They always say you're going against the Kansas City Chiefs. You want to take every opportunity you can to make sure you keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. You want to try and put points on the board every single time you get an opportunity. So you don't want to punt the ball away, in some opportunities that you would against some other teams. But this Chargers-Chiefs game, I thought they lost the game. Well, in hindsight, at least, there were 2 drives in which they ended up at 4th and short. One being the first time around there in the Kansas City side of the field. It was 4th and 2 at Kansas City's 47. And Brandon Staley, who out of all people decides to punt the ball. That's a situation where you probably want to keep your offense on the field there. The very next drive, actually, in fact, it was a 4th and 2 on the Kansas City 48. Pretty much the same exact spot on the field, the same down and distance. He punts again. These are situations where you would think Brandon Staley, knowing the analytical side of things, how he went about it last year, even though I didn't even hate how he went about it last year. I think it just comes down to execution. You want to keep Justin Herbert out on the field. I don't hate you for that. So, this time around, he doesn't do that. And I think those were opportunities where he could have taken advantage of a Kansas City Chiefs team who everybody kind of thought would be a little bit lesser, but here we are. They're at the top of the AFC West once again. So the Chargers coaching staff is...
We'll get into it. Speaking of less, what you gonna say?
Well, I just wanna ask Mike a question because he touched on it. So last year, Brandon Staley has the problem of going for it too often. This year, you see a little bit more conservative out of him, and probably spots where you would see normally want to see a team with a guy like Justin Herbert, go. Do you think that's maybe the coach not like we saw it with McDermott, over conservative McDermott, always punting? We're like, no, let Josh Allen do his thing. Do you think that's something that he's gonna have to like? Are we gonna see more and more of that, or do you think that he's gonna learn in the season? Because sometimes it felt like it would take McDermott too long to change his philosophy. Do you think that we'll see that in season with the Chargers, or do you think that now he's gonna go, well, I got so much shit I got so much, crap for it last year for going for it too often. Now I'm gonna punt it. Do you think that like maybe that's just really overcorrecting?
I don't know, because last year I think Brandon Staley caught a fair share of I think he got a fair share of flack for some of the decisions he made. There were some people out there that were all for it. They like to see psychotic football. They like to see psychotic play calling. And he had his niche of a fan base that was supporting those types of decisions. But he did take a lot of flack throughout the offseason, and now he's coming out very conservative. So I think he'll probably stick to being more conservative. I think maybe if there's any type of adjustment, he'll make the predictable decisions. If there's another 4th and 2 coming up, on the opponent's side of the field, he'll probably go for it this time around. But if he's at his own 35 or something with a 4th and 2, 4th and 3, I think he's probably punting that. Whereas last year he wouldn't. So I think he'll probably take a more typical approach that we're used to seeing from any head coach, instead of being that one side or the other of conservative to aggression. So I won't say a complete adjustment, but maybe he'll kind of fall to that average.
Fall in the middle. I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the roster to, if you can at least be average, then you should undoubtedly make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with them. But Caveman, let me ask you about the Chiefs, which I think, we'll have an interesting conversation about the Chiefs. Of course, it came out week 1. They laid an absolute smacking all over those Cardinals and newly paid Kyler Murray. Week 2, they played less than stellar. They had a battle in Thursday Night Football versus the Los Angeles Chargers, which, as I mentioned earlier, Patrick Mahomes tried his darndest to throw that game away, and the Chargers were like, nope, we want to lose more than you, and they did it. They pulled it off, and they lost the game, which I'm sure by looking at the game, that was their goal, was to lose that game. Mike, what's your thoughts on the Chiefs? Are they like the real deal?
I don't know, man. I thought after the first week of football, understandably, the Cardinals are terrible. Their secondary is not great. They don't have a very good team right now. And Cliff Kingsbury is probably no better than a high school head coach. But nevertheless, they go out there and light up the Arizona Cardinals, and they're still an NFL team. They went out there and made them look silly in the first week, where most teams are looking extremely rusty. There were only like 1 to 2 wins, maybe 3 wins, where a team handily took care of their opponent. Every other game was a struggle for nearly every other team that won. Aside from us, the Chiefs and the Dolphins, there was really no handle, no good grasp on a victory. So that was a little terrifying. Then week 2 rolls around, and I did take the Chiefs just because of more so what had to do with the Chargers. I thought they could have handled the Las Vegas Raiders a little bit easier than they did, and they didn't. So that was my reasoning for taking the Chiefs. I don't want to say they're necessarily the real deal. I think they'll be fighting for that division all season, and they'll be going back and forth with who I think will end up winning it is the Chargers. But they're not going anywhere, Justice. I hate to break it to you. Patrick Mahomes is he's still pretty damn good at football. I hate to break the.
Jake, what do you feel about the Chiefs?
I don't think they're as potent of a team on both sides of the ball as they have been in years past, where they're really going to, be a really solid team. I mean, if you look at it offensively, they're still there. Like they can still put up points. We saw them do it against the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals might be frauds. And, they go in against a tough team. We know what it's like to play division teams, with the Chargers. That's not going to be an easy game, no matter even if you're playing the Jets, they're going to play you hard. And, the Chargers are obviously more talented than the Jets, so they're obviously playing them hard. But the thing is, Patrick Mahomes has kind of gone out and proved he's like, Yeah, I'm missing Tyreek Hill, but I'm just gonna start hitting other people instead. So that 70-80 that's going to Tyreek. You've got Justin Watson getting 50 yards. You got Hardman going for 49. You got Kelsey for 51. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire for 44 yards. Like, it's being spread out all throughout. So I think there's still going to be an efficient offense. I don't know if they're not going to be able to have that splash ability that they had with Tyreek, where like, we got to get back in this game really quick. Boom, Tyreek, take the top off of them. But there's still going to be a team to where you have to hold them down because they'll still efficiently move down the field. I think that the Chiefs are, they've taken a step back, and their defense has definitely taken that step back. That's the main thing when I look at them and you look at their stats. They rank like 18th, 19th, like 20th in some stat. Like, they're not a great defense. They're kind of like a below the middle of the pack defense where their offense is still going to be good enough to score. It just has to outscore the other team. They're going to be one of those teams, I think, this year. They're not going to be a team dominating on the defensive side of the ball. So I would definitely say that, they're not real. They're not that team who's going to come out and, you got to be scared of the Chiefs, but they're still going to be a formidable team, and they're going to be, like Mike said, fighting for that division all year.
See, now, a week ago, I might have agreed, right? I was watching them stomp the Cardinals because I'm thinking the Cardinals are at least a decent team. And actually, I thought the Cardinals were a good team. And that may be to my chagrin. But, I mean, they beat the Raiders. And people think the Raiders are a good team. So I don't know, right? I don't know at this point. I don't know what's going on with
It's a week-to-week league.
Yeah, exactly. So I look at the Chiefs and I say, if you would have asked me week one, I'd have been like, oh, I was wrong. These boys is for real, right? But last week, and this isn't me saying that they're not for real. I'm just adding context to the situation, right? Patrick Mahomes was 24-35, 235 and 2 touchdowns. He literally, and guys, please go back and watch the tape. 3 interceptions got called back for penalties, and then another 4 got dropped or missed by the Chargers defense, right? And not only that, but the Chiefs offense only scored 20 points in this game. A pick 6 is what won them this game, essentially, right? The Chargers defense was really shutting Mahomes down, shutting down Phil Strong. They were giving him fits, right? And I thought that was interesting because I mean, the Chargers are good, of course, or they're good on paper, but I was expecting, especially from what I saw in week 1, and when you listen to people like Nick Wright, it's still all good and gravy over here in Kansas City, but it didn't look like that in week 2. It looked like a quarterback who didn't really know what to do. He looked like he was disgruntled, disheveled for quite a bit. And to his credit, he did show up when he needed to show up. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm also just calling it how I saw it, which was he put the ball in trouble a ton, right? You can talk about Josh Allen running around and getting hit and all that. He put the ball in trouble a ton. I don't know. I haven't seen PFF's turnover-worthy play stats or whatever. But if they're true to what they say that they are, what's up, Robbie? Love you, bro. If they're true to what they say they are, then there's no way that should have happened. There's no way they should be given. They should be looking that bad, especially on Thursday night against a divisional opponent, short week. I get it. But if you want me to think that and the only reason I'm saying this is because people think that the Chiefs are better than the Bills this year. Yeah. And they say, you can't say the Bills are better than the Chiefs until they beat the Chiefs. This is a completely new year. This is a completely new team. So if, one of the arguments that I loved was people say that this year, the Cardinals are better than the Titans, and they say the Chargers are better than the Rams this year. But I mean, the Bills blew their teams out by even more. So We're talking about this year. The Bills still look like the best team. I'm just not impressed with what I've seen from the Chiefs, especially not in that Chargers game.
Yeah, and with the Chargers, I mean they're good defense. I mean we can't take that away from them when they got Derwin James, J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, like they got a defense. So it's not surprising to me that when you've got Mahomes trying to pull some Mahomes magic, that they're giving him a little bit more fits because they're one of the, at least on paper, better defenses in the league. And the problem with people saying like, oh well, until you beat the Chiefs, you can't say the Bills are better. Look, I mean, it doesn't matter who the Bills played. They played the team that won the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, and they played the team that won the Super Bowl last year. And if they were close games and they won, I could see your argument. But they absolutely destroyed both these teams. Like, they made them look like they should not even be on the same field. Like, so I understand people want to use that, but what's going to happen if the Bills walk into Arrowhead in the regular season like they did last year and they win? Then the narrative is going to be, oh, well, they got to beat them in the playoffs because they haven't beat them in the playoffs. So, like, I'm not here for it. If people use that argument, it's lazy. Like, it's just like, look at the tape. Just look at how both teams are performing. It is obvious that on-field performance, the Bills have been, through 2 weeks, the best team in the NFL, bar none.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get into our next segment, our next topic, rather. We have the NFL surprises this season. Teams that you thought were going to be bad turning out to be pretty good so far, and vice versa, right? So I'll start to kind of give you guys, some time to think about how you feel about this.
I knew my answer right away, bro. As soon as you said
you got your answer. You got your answer, Caveman? All right,
we'll let you go, though.
We'll do the bad teams that turned out to be good first. Go ahead, Caveman.
I'm gonna have to say the Jaguars. Justus, you were one of the people this offseason that said the Jaguars have a chance at making the postseason. It was you and Hansel from Cover One that I had conversations with, and I'm not gonna lie, I internally laughed. I'm like, there's just no way.
You externally laughed too.
I might have externally laughed. I might have done both, but I'm like. I'm just like thinking to myself, there's no avenue in which this is happening. And I still don't think there's an avenue in which this is happening. But, of course, the roads have opened up a lot throughout the first 2 weeks for this team. And Christian Kirk, they paid him a lot of money. And and he's paying off to be one of the best wide receivers that, they've had in Jacksonville over the last few years. So, Trevor Lawrence has taken a few steps in the right direction. The offensive line's been holding up a lot better than it did last year. Doug Peterson's effect is obviously very, very potent throughout the first 2 weeks as well. The defense, I think, is going to be their strong suit. We saw Saxonville back in 2017, 2018. They're getting back to that with Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen. They have a ferocious defensive front as well, and their linebacking core, who I'm drawing blanks on, who they just drafted. They got it. They brought in Chad Muma. They drafted somebody else too. I can't
remember. Trayvon Walker.
Was he? I thought he was. Well, either way, nevertheless, they're going to be good for the rest of the season. They're going to at least be competitive. Whether or not
you think they win that division, yeah,
it's got less to do with them. It's got more to do with what the other teams, look like as the season progresses. If the Colts don't pick it up, I don't think any other team has a chance of taking it. But we'll get into that in a second. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have certainly shocked me personally, and made me feel foolish after laughing at some fellow patrons of mine talking about the Jaguars.
We are 100% going to talk about the Colts at some point in the next 10, 15 minutes.
I was about to say, I think,
but we're going to do the bad team that looks good so far. Jake, who's your bad team?
It's the New York Football Giants. That team, I thought for sure, okay, they're in a rebuild, it's Brian Daboll. They're taking over this team. I didn't expect much from them. And I don't think they're a great team. They're not.
Are they a good team?
But they're good.
I don't
They're
know.
just good. And the thing is, that's all you kind of need in the bottom tier of the NFC to kind of try to squeak into the playoffs. And with the schedule they have, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but, they play the Cowboys next. They play the Bears. Then they play the Packers and the Ravens. But then they get the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Texans, the Lions. Like, those are winnable games for this team. And this team is behind Brian Daboll. Like, you see the locker room, you see it changing. Saquads is back, baby. Like, he's doing good. And yeah, surprisingly, I thought the Giants could be a terrible team this year. And so far, it's close games. I understand they win by 1 against the Titans and they win by 3 against the Panthers, but they won. Yeah, so they surprised me to say the least. So yeah, they're the team that I thought would be pretty bad this year, and they're 2-0. So
fair enough. I figured you would pick one of the two teams I was thinking, and I was just going to go ahead and pick the other one. Of course, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, they were supposed to be good.
Yeah, you thought they were going to be bad?
Yeah. Jalen Hurts is that boy.
I was not anticipating.
Oh, see, I didn't believe in that too much, but the rest of the team, I was like, that could at least carry them.
But
he's not.
I'll tell you what I was thinking. I was thinking Blake Bortles Jaguars type of deal, right? Where if the team is any good at all, it's not because of the quarterback. And I have been wrong. Jalen Hurts has been balling out of control. He has been finding A.J. Brown. They look like a great duo. Howie Roseman looks like an absolute genius for the second time in like maybe about half of a decade. He's built this team back up. They're 2 weeks, of course. Like, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, but they look excellent right now. Like, they're beating the brakes off people, scoring at will, and they look really good. Of course, that defensive line is absolutely disturbing. The offensive line is pretty good too. They've got weapons all over the place. Jalen Hurts, not only a good passer, he's a better passer than what I thought. He's a phenomenal runner of the football. So that automatically is gonna, give defense fits. Just from the sheer athleticism that he displays. Yeah, man, the Eagles have definitely surprised me. Pleasantly surprised because they're in the NFC. I don't really give too much of a damn, but they do. And I mean, Jalen Hurts is not beating the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl, so bring it on. But yeah, man, the Eagles have surprised me, and I'll take the I guess maybe if people want to say that that's not like a good pick, because I get some people were saying that the Eagles were going to be good. They were some people's Super Bowl pick. Now, did I think those people were delusional and just talking out of their ass? Sure, but they look vindicated through 2 weeks. So I will, admit where I have been wrong through 2 weeks and say that I thought the Eagles were going to be much, much worse.
I would have been so happy to come on here and say the Vikings, had they won on Monday night, just so Caveman would have to talk about Kirk Cousins again. But
they got busted open.
No, yeah, except Kirk Cousins actually looked like Kirk Cousins on Monday night.
Yeah,
So,
he looked like Caveman's envisionment of what
if
Kirk
Caveman
Cousins
could draw Kirk Cousins, he would look like how he did on Monday night.
I can't tell you how happy watching that game made me. I was watching that final drive, or one of the last drives the Vikings had. He it looked like he was playing jackpot with Justin Jefferson and Darius Slay. Like, I don't even think he was aiming for anybody at that point. He was just throwing it up in that area and praying. I actually have something funny regarding Kirk.
Bro, it's funny. Every single time I watch Kirk Cousins now, I watched in week 1. I'm like, okay, man, I got to talk about Kirk Cousins. And now I'm like, oh, never mind. Caveman's still right about
You
Kirk
can try to make an argument. Go right ahead.
No, not anymore.
No, if you're going to make an argument for Kirk Cousins, it's that Justin Jefferson may be the best wide receiver in the league. Like, that's his argument. Like, just keep throwing it to Justin Jefferson.
I'm mad at Kirk Cousins because he doesn't want to look at Adam Thielen anymore. He
Yeah, for
only
real.
I mean, if look, man,
killing me in fantasy.
No, I'm not defending Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying that if Justin Jefferson is on the field, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson. Although he got shut down by Darius Slay on Monday, so that would have been the time to look for Adam Thielen. He obviously couldn't get it done. So we are going to move on to the topic I have been waiting for. Teams that we thought were going to be good that look absolutely horrible. Terrible garbage. Bank garbage.
I already know who you're gonna pick.
Yeah, so
Everybody knows who I'm gonna pick. Joe Burrow's not top 5.
Oh,
I don't know. Kid is top 10 at this point. Right? Bengals. Listen, I tried to tell y'all. I said that 60% of what y'all think Joe Burrow's talent is actually Jamar Chase. Same exact argument for Kirk Cousins. 60% of what y'all think Kirk Cousins can do has actually been Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson. Right? So I'm looking at the Bengals. I'm sorry. I was going to let y'all go first, but I got to get this off again.
No, you do your thing.
Listen. Joe Burrow threw what? 4 or 5 interceptions in week 1?
5.
He had four picks and a fumble, I think.
Yeah.
5 turnovers. You know how happy I was?
No, I mean, all you have to do is look on Twitter. I saw how
I have
happy you were.
never been so happy to see somebody's downfall. What's crazy is I have nothing against Joe Burrow. Like, I like him. I like his swag. I like the whole cool Joe thing. I do. I love Jamar Chase. If they
You
were
just
in the
don't
AFC,
like the narrative.
I would. I hate the narrative. Like, I hate the coronation too early. They made Josh Allen play 2 seasons and be extra good before they were like, okay, fine, he's a good quarterback, right? Like, they made him earn it. But Justin Jefferson walks in and he's a top 5 quarterback. Hasn't sniffed the playoffs, or he did sniff it. He just sneezed it away. Joe Burrow, I mean, he got to the Super Bowl, whatever, but are we going to act like it was Joe Burrow? It was clearly that defense. Like, so I didn't think the Bengals were going to be this bad, granted, but I mean, I feel vindicated through 2 weeks, and unless they go on some kind of crazy run, which I don't think will happen, you still got to see that Steelers defense. Granted, without TJ Watt, possibly, you still got to see them. You still got to see the Ravens, and we'll see what happens with the Browns. But I have no faith in the Bengals, and I'm glad they suck so far. Caveman, who you got, bro?
Oh man, I know who Jake's gonna pick. I kind of don't want to steal that because that's the
Don't
that's
worry,
the hot.
I kind of have 2 teams in mind, so you can say it.
All right, I'll take the Colts. I'll take the easy way out. There's a lot going on with Indianapolis, and I was having this conversation with Judge last night, and he made a good point. You can kind of see this possibility happening with the way this roster was built. Of course, through 2 weeks, they didn't expect to have their top 2 wide receivers out. And all of a sudden they have nobody that can create separation, playing out wide anymore. But, in the case that Michael Pittman got hurt, and in the case that Alec Pierce got hurt at the same time, they're going to be in trouble. This team did not bring in any type of veteran presence at the wide receiver position. They were neglectful of it. They sat on a ton of money. For some reason, they decided they didn't need it. And it's not like they really make up for it in any other area either. Of course, they got Jonathan Taylor in the ground game, but that can only get you so far if you can't move the ball through the air. And that's what we saw this past week against who they played against, the Jaguars, who smoked them. And
didn't score a single point.
Yeah, I mean, they got shut out. They got embarrassed. And, of course, Shaquille Leonard hasn't played through 2 weeks either. So the injury bug's really bit them bad right now, and I think that's mostly what's going on here with the Colts. So I'm not reading too far into it, but this is something that you could have seen happening if you just looked at the roster. Their depth in some very key areas is not strong, and we're seeing the effects of that. So the Colts are really going to have to pick it up. And luckily they play in the AFC South, but 2 of the easiest games they probably have on their schedule are already behind them, and they lost both. So they got a long way to go.
That's a great point.
Well, they tied.
That's a great point. They 2 of the easy games on their schedule, and they lost both of them. One of them, very disgusting.
If you're a Colts fan though, can you say playing the Jaguars in Jacksonville is actually an easy game every year? You've lost every single time since 2014.
See, now theoretically, if I'm thinking that, because me included, I was one of those people earlier in the year when they got Matt Ryan. I was like, oh wow, look out for the Colts. Like they could be Super Bowl contenders.
Oh yeah, me too.
So if I'm if I'm living in Indiana and I'm thinking, all right, we just got a Super Bowl, or not a Super Bowl MVP because he didn't win that game. We got an MVP, former MVP coming to my team to replace, someone who maybe was a little too inconsistent in Carson Wentz. Matt Ryan is a more steady hand, and just give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, play good defense, and play action, fake everybody to death, and like you have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And they have come out and lost horrible games. I mean, like really bad games, like games that are kind of inexcusable. And then they lost them in like embarrassing fashion at that. So I get what you're saying, Jake. It's a divisional game. You're away. It's always going to be tough. But if I'm rooting for what I think is a Super Bowl contender, like the Bills, if the Bills go to New Jersey and lose 24-0, we're all gonna have a problem. You know what I mean?
We're gonna be talking about it.
We're gonna be talking about it exactly. So, Colts look horrible. Jake, who's your team?
I'm sticking in the AFC South. I'm gonna go with the Titans. They're 0-2. I think that's a team. You can't go from number 1 seed in the AFC to a team that barely loses to the Giants, who are not supposed to be a good team this year, and then getting absolutely destroyed by the Bills, who's the team that you beat last year. I mean, you lose A.J. Brown. I mean, you draft Treylon Burks, you bring in Robert Woods, and you get Austin Hooper at tight end, who's not a slouch at tight end. He's not amazing, but he's also not a scrub. Like, you think, okay, you should still be able to get this play action game going, and it has just been disappointing these first two games. And I mean, if I'm looking at this right now, I'm like, all right, on defense you lose Daquan Jones, who ends up on the Bills, and then they also lose whoever the lineman we got from them. Yeah, Saffold and Quessenberry.
Lost Harold Landry to injury too.
Yeah, and Harold
Damn,
Landry.
they lost Harold Landry?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they suck.
Yeah, so it's like this team, they were another team that I was like, the Colts and the Titans will probably be fighting it out for the division. I thought, like, I still thought that they were going to be right there, but right now at 0-2, it just kind of looks like this team feels a bit defeated, and they have to play the Raiders and then the Colts. I don't even know who to pick in that Titans-Colts game now. Hopefully the Colts pick it up by then, but they don't have a real easy schedule because they have to play the Broncos and the Chiefs and the Packers. Justus, you'll probably want to watch Titans-Bengals. You'll probably love that one.
I hope the Titans win.
Then they play the Eagles and the Chargers. Like, they're not going to be good this year, guys. Like if you're a Titans fan, don't play them for any preseason trip or postseason trips, because buckle up. You're going to be, after that last game of the season against the Jaguars, you're going into draft talk immediately. So prepare for that. They're just bad. I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen. I mean, I know we all called them frauds last year after they lost in the playoffs as the number 1 seed, but like now it just looks like that's like a major collapse. I don't know. I'd have to look back at history, but I don't know if we've ever seen a number 1 seed that the next year is probably going to be like bottom 5 or 6 in the league.
Yeah, no, coming in and losing to a Giants team with a fresh new reboot in terms of front office. They don't even look like they trust their quarterback in Daniel Jones. You hear rumblings of Tyrod Taylor maybe usurping him. All these things that are going on with the Giants. You lose a close game to them, and then of course you just go on the road and get. Hey, y'all both cussed, so I get one. Bitch slapped all over the field by a Buffalo Bills. It's definitely not looking good.
And just one thing, Derrick Henry doesn't look like Derrick Henry. that we've seen in years prior. Like, he kind of looks like, I don't want to say he's taken too many hits because that man is a monster. I've seen him in person because he played high school ball down here where I lived. Like, that man has been a monster, but it almost just looks like after that foot injury last year that maybe there's a slight step back and he's not as physical and willing to plant that foot and take somebody on as much. So I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it, but that's like their whole offense, man.
There's some speculation that he is hitting that running back wall for the 30-year-olds and whatnot. So
he also got
we'll
paid, right?
There.
So
he did. He got paid. All right. So before we move into the next topic, this is kind of in the realm. I mean, same game, same team. We've got Caveman's player today, player of the week rather.
Running back can be that wide receiver. He's a special player.
Here he is trying to make a man miss in space, and Taylor and has the first down. And Deebo Samuel.
All right, I don't know what happened with the quality of the clip, but it was a great play. Deebo Samuel take the handoff and just makes everybody look silly and rushes on his way to like a 50-plus yard gain. The Deebo is crazy. Deebo is absolutely nuts. And that brings us to the next topic. Jimmy G takes over in San Francisco. Okay, man, this was your topic. What was your thoughts on what the 49ers could look like this season now that they've had the same guy that they've had the last, half decade, probably a little more than that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the consensus opinion is that they are a better team now. Of course, some thoughts and prayers to Trey Lance. He had successful surgery. He seems to be doing all right now, but I feel bad for the kid. He hasn't gotten a fair shake in this league, to be quite honest. He played like 2 or 3 games last season. I'm not even sure if one of them or even a start, if I'm being honest. I can't recall, but this season he's given the reins of the starting quarterback. It doesn't feel like the franchise has full confidence in him, at least from a public point of view. And you go into the year, lose to the Chicago Bears in a monsoon, and you're going into the next week. You're looking to bounce back, just trying to develop and find your way, and you get your ankle snapped into pieces. So I feel bad for him. It's pretty much just where I'm at with Trey Lance. But as far as the 49ers go, yeah, like I said, it seems like the consensus opinion is that they are a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo. And although I don't completely disagree, I get this odd vibe that there was a sense of relief that Jimmy Garoppolo is able to step in, circumstance aside. And I don't really quite understand that because the 49ers are in a spot right now where Jimmy Garoppolo playing does nothing for him unless they walk away this year with a Super Bowl, which I don't think is going to happen. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing not by choice, of course. And at the end of the season, does Jimmy Garoppolo stay by some God-given miracle if he plays well enough? What happens with Trey Lance? Is he your plan to be your starter the following season? Coming off this ankle injury, and what if he isn't able to play coming off said injury? So it's like this is so bad for the long-term future for the 49ers, and I get this odd sense that the franchise itself and the fan base is just kind of ignoring that fact and just happy that they'll have another shot, if you will, at the Super Bowl. But like I said, if you don't come out on top of it and then Trey Lance doesn't necessarily pan out, you could be looking at a couple of years of mediocrity down the road. So this is just all bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, this isn't the same situation because your young guy gets injured, but this is kind of like a similar situation of what you mentioned last year, Caveman. It's Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. You're probably not going to maximize your offensive potential with Teddy Bridgewater, but he's also the safest option, right? He probably makes the team better right now, but they aren't going to be better long term. Or like Jake mentioned with the Seahawks, Geno Smith over, ironically, Drew Lock. They're better right now because he's a more safe pick, but they're probably not better off for it. Or maybe Jake disagrees, but what do you think about the San Francisco 49ers situation? How lucky are they to have kept Jimmy Garoppolo?
I mean, they are lucky that they kept Jimmy Garoppolo because they were going to have to turn to, I don't even remember, Mr. Brock Purdy Is that the guy? That was the other
I
guy
think
that
so.
they had
He was
on
about to
there.
get a second for Case Keenum.
Yeah. So like, if they're, I don't know what their aspirations were this year. When they said that they were going to start Trey Lance, I didn't expect them to be the same 49ers team that we've seen the last couple of years with Super Bowl aspirations. I kind of assumed, all right, now they want to hand the team off to the young guy. It might take a couple of years for him to really step in and kind of become his own. But, the Chargers, I think, or not the Chargers, the 49ers at this point, they're kind of like, all right, they were kind of seeing what they had in Trey Lance last year when he had to play because Jimmy G was hurt. And then like he gets a couple of games this year, and it's just like it's not looking amazing for them. But you're still like, he's a young guy, and you want to give him the chance because you gave up a pretty penny to get up and get him. But sometimes that doesn't work out, and who knows what this looks like. It's very short-sighted to look like right now. It's like, yeah, this team, though, is built like Trey Lance as a pick, depending on what you were doing with Jimmy G. Like, Jimmy G is kind of your option if you're trying to win, like, right now. Trey Lance is kind of like your option for trying to win long term, like you said, offensive production for the long term. So, yeah, there's a relief because now they feel like, okay, now we have a shot to, go in and try to get this again. But, does this lead into them having to give Jimmy G another contract? Maybe, if they don't truly believe in Trey Lance, depending on how he's going to come back. Do they just take the L on it and they just, keep Jimmy G around for a couple of years, but then they're going to have a couple of years where they absolutely stink? Like, that's decisions that they're going to have to make. But right now in the short term, I mean, it is better for them just win record wise for Jimmy G. But I don't know about their future. But, 49ers fans, they're going to go out and show out no matter what. And maybe it's a sigh of relief. But, prayers up to Trey Lance. But, they're going to win more games with Jimmy G.
I'm interested to see how this pans out because for my money, and I like to speak in hyperbole, but I truly do believe Kyle Shanahan is the best offensive mind in the game at the very moment. So to see him struggling with the next Josh Allen is very interesting. We'll see how that actually plans out. But next up, I'm gonna go ahead and give my play of the week. But first, I'll mention that Cole Beasley did sign with the Bucs. I believe the practice squad, right, Caveman?
Yeah, but I'm assuming he's gonna be pulled up.
Yeah, he'll get called up.
Yeah, especially over there with Brady, he's definitely gonna miss some burden. So Julio Jones, Cole Beasley, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Jesus Lord,
that's a good pickup for them, though.
That is a great pickup, especially with Tom Brady. Josh Allen was basically doing the same thing, just taking a dunk in underneath, extended run game with Cole Beasley. So we'll see how that pans out for those guys. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into my play of the week, which is actually plays of the week. Kyler Murray.
Running out of time, on the move, coming back this way. Dancing and looking and directing traffic, and look at the length of this play. Murray to the 10, to the 5, and he's going to convert it. That's unbelievable. 7 yards out for the 2 points and the tie. Murray directing traffic to the end zone, diving, and the catch is made. A.J. Green.
That's a dive. Two very impressive plays from the third-year man out of Oklahoma there. I actually just Caveman. Do you think Kyler is worth the money he got paid?
I think Kyler Murray at his best is more than worth every single penny they gave him. It's just a matter of what Kyler Murray you're getting, and it seems like that varies depending on the time of year it is and what video game is out. But no matter what happens, they really didn't have a choice. I mean, if they don't, what are you going to not pay Kyler Murray? You drafted him first overall. You're not going to pay the kid. He's done plenty for you over the last couple of years. They were going to pay him. They had no choice but to pay him. But I do think he's worth it when he's at his best. And I think we saw that against the Raiders, especially down the stretch. Kyler Murray, when when he's dialed in, I think he's a top 8 quarterback.
All right.
Like I said, I think it matters based on what Kyler Murray you get.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and get into the question segment.
I don't get to talk about Kyler Murray.
Do you want to talk about Kyler Murray, Jake?
Well, that right there was NFL quarterback Kyler Murray, not FaZe Clan Kyler Murray. So, like that Kyler Murray installed aimbot on his arm.
For sure.
Did you see that throw? That was amazing. And here I am thinking you're gonna play clips of Tua for your plays of the week. I mean, come on, they're all over the place. They're like,
who's this guy? I know who's he talking to right now.
All right, Caveman, why don't you go ahead and give your first question, and why don't you pose that one to Drake? It's a Jake.
What was the second part?
The question that you had on the.
No, I know you said something after that though.
I said pose it to Jake.
Oh, okay. So this question, well, we already did it. Talk about it. But so I'll kind of divert off course a little bit. The question was, can the Jaguars maintain the AFC South? Well, like I said, we already kind of touched on that. I think my other question will be, as far as the NFC goes, if the Philadelphia Eagles, somehow collapse as of right now, I think they're probably the NFC favorites. Who's the runner-up to take home the number 1 seed? Who do you think comes away with it, guys?
It's a great amendment. So for me, I'm gonna the NFC truly sucks. Like the Packers look inept. The Buccaneers don't look great. Not great energy or juju coming out of that place. And so the Rams don't look great either, though. I'm gonna say the Buccaneers simply because of Brady. Not only Brady, but also they also have Julio Jones now. Obviously, like Caveman said, and Cole Beasley now. Mike Evans for 14 of the remaining 15 games. And I think, of course, they always start slow and then they figure it out mid-season, the end of the season. I think that's exactly what we're going to do this year. How about you, Jake?
I agree. It's probably the Bucs, but since there's only 3 2-0 teams in the NFC, and the Bucs are one, the Eagles are one, and the Giants are the other one. So, I went over the Giants' schedule. If somehow they just keep pulling out games, the way the NFC is going, that would be the shocker of all shockers. But I feel like the Rams are probably also like a safe bet to say they'll get it together eventually. But the way the Cardinals kind of seem to be putting it back together after getting absolutely demolished week 1, maybe they'll be able to take that step up too. The Packers, again, they're Aaron Rodgers is throwing to bag boys pretty much, because the guy that they do draft, Christian Watson, he's in the doghouse. So
drops everything.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, who do you really look at? The NFC is very, you can't even say top heavy because there's so many teams that are 1-1. But I think the teams that are going to take that step up, maybe the Vikings, learn a little bit of something. Maybe they'll also contend, because they looked like they were on when they played the Packers. So it's kind of just like, what NFC team is going to get hot at the right time might be the right answer if the Eagles, don't get it. But yeah, I'd probably say the safest bet is the Bucs, especially now with Cole Beasley. It's just kind of like, Brady's going to get it together, and that defense has been the only thing that's looked really solid.
Yeah, for sure. Great answer there. So we pretty much touched on one of my questions too, so I'm just going to ask the previous one. Through week 2, I'm really interested to see what you guys think about this. Through week 2, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL?
I think
Tua.
Are we talking like right this second, or are we right actually?
This second.
All right, the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, I think, go as follows. Josh Allen is number 1. There's no debating that. Bills fan, Bill show aside. Josh Allen's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been otherworldly through these first 2 weeks. Every single time he tucks the ball, I think he's more dangerous than, I won't say Josh or Lamar, but he's just as dangerous as any open field runner in the NFL when he's got the ball in his hands. And he's carrying it. And the passing development that he's taken through just 2 weeks of football, and the connection he's built with A.J. Brown, it's been brilliant. Devontae Smith was able to get more involved as Dallas Goedert in the second week. And they smoked the Vikings, who had an impressive first week too. So, Jalen Hurts, I think back-to-back weeks now has put up the offense at least has put up at least 60 points combined already. So they're on a roll, this Eagles team, and I think Jalen Hurts has a lot to do with that. So I'll go Josh, Jalen, Mahomes, number 3. This is tough. Boy, I guess. I mean, Aaron hasn't been terrible. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been bad. I think it's just a matter of him not getting too much assistance. I'm being very careful not to completely overhype somebody, even though I probably already did. But I think I'll put Aaron Rodgers at 4, and at number 5, this is really hard.
Say Derek Carr.
Say Derek Carr. I would say Derek Carr, but the second week was. I mean, both weeks in their own right were rough showings for one reason or another. So I won't go that far. Let me think about it. I'll come back with a full list. But I have my top 2.
All right. All right, go ahead, Jake.
I got. Okay, so if we're gonna go based off of what the NFL thinks, currently through 2 weeks, the top 5 quarterbacks statistically are
the NFL thinks. No, this is what Jake Jordan thinks.
No. Hold on, I'll give you what Jake Jordan thinks. But here, Tua is number 1, Carson Wentz is number 2, Joe Flacco number 3, Josh Allen, and then Justin Herbert. That's
fair.
Joe Flacco.
He's been dealing.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco was dealing.
Especially
in the second week. He looks like he's back in the playoffs with that's 2014 Joe Flacco right now, man.
That's elite Joe Flacco.
Yeah, he's out there being elite. But no, I think it's Mahomes. Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was about to kick you off the show.
Obviously, I'm about to get sent backstage. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Number 4, I'm going Lamar. Lamar has been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, 100%. Lamar's probably my 4. Honestly.
Yeah, like he's playing out of his mind. And then I'm gonna go Aaron Rodgers at 5. So yeah, Lamar has been absolutely. I mean, people want to keep dumping on Lamar, but outside of his defense absolutely blowing it at the end, he was absolutely dealing on that Dolphins
passer rating through like 3 quarters.
Yeah. So like I'm all in. I think Lamar, he's trying to earn that contract, and he went out there and I mean, say what you want, that Dolphins secondary is no slouch, and he was just Rashad Bateman was torching Xavier Howard.
The dog.
Like,
dude, he's got that dog in him.
Dude, he sure do. Like, and Lamar got it too, man. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's dealing. So, that's my top 5.
I like it. I like that top 5. I was gonna give my top 5 if neither one of you guys said Lamar, but you both ended up saying Lamar because mine was gonna be Josh, Pat, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, and then
Rodgers, Brady.
What if I said Trevor Lawrence? Is that a bad take?
I'd have to look at his numbers.
Trevor Lawrence.
I got you. 510 passing yards, 68.1 completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Oh,
all right, not terrible. Not top 5, but not
yeah,
he's top 5.
He's
percentage is impressive. 68. Yeah. That's pretty good. All right. So we have a segment on this show called like Spotlight or something.
I
Eyes on Me.
I don't care.
We have a segment on the show called Eyes on Me, where me and Caveman follow two players around the NFL all season. Now, again, like I said, we haven't done this show since before week 1, right? We did the show the last time that Wednesday before the Thursday night game. And after watching 2 weeks of football, we realized that the players we picked, we aren't really interested in them anymore. So we have both picked new players, which, I mean, you guys don't remember who we picked in the first place anyway. So let's go ahead and give you guys our players. Caveman, you want to let everybody know who you are going to be watching this season.
Yeah, so I switched from Allen Robinson, who I will still be watching, but to Derek Carr. I just felt like, how did I not go with Derek Carr originally? He's the guy I put so much emotional and physical stock in prior to the year. I had some ridiculous projection for him before the season began, and I still think it's more than possible. He's kind of on pace for it, to be honest. I don't remember what it was. It was like 5,100 passing yards and like 30 for touchdowns or something like that. But anyway, Derek Carr is who I'm going to be watching this year. Like I said, I've supported Derek Carr to the utmost extent, nearly as much as I can, every opportunity I got. So Derek Carr is going to be the guy I'm continuing to watch. And if he's able to distribute the ball similar to how, although this sounds like a stretch, Patrick Mahomes does with his receivers, if he's able to get out of the mindset of throwing to just his number one guy, I think that's when the offense is really going to be unlocked and he's able to get to his first, second, third read. It's going to be tough to stop those three options. So I took Derek Carr.
All right, so we'll get into what the guys look like so far through 2 weeks. I'm just gonna give my player right now. I originally had Travis Etienne. After week 1, I was looking at him like, bro, what the hell are you doing? And then, of course, the Jaguars blew the doors off of the Colts, but I was just not interested no more. I'm sorry, I just don't care anymore. So my next guy is Micah Parsons, and I know that's kind of cheap because he's like the best edge rusher in the league at the moment. But I'm excited about this kid, man. I love this kid, bro. I do. I told you when I gave my Christian Benford, soliloquy about how good he was going to be. I said he could potentially be our Micah Parsons, not in the sense of being like a dominant edge rusher or anything like that, obviously, because people love to mix up words, but in the sense that we could potentially have a guy who is able to move all around the field and be dominant while doing it. And I still think that could potentially be in Christian Benford's future. I didn't predict him to be like, a cornerback. I predicted him to be maybe a nickel or a safety or something like that. And he's kind of just exceeded expectations at his original position. But I still think that there's a future in it for him, with moving around a little bit. So, Micah Parsons is a little bit of my inspiration because when I saw him on the football field, I was like, yo, he reminds me of Micah Parsons in the sense where he's everywhere. Like, he's all over the place. So I'm obviously going to be following Christian Benford. So I decided I'm going to go with Micah Parsons as my player who I have my eyes on. Now we're going to go ahead and get into Caveman's player, Derek Carr, and look at some of what he's been doing through the first 2 games. Caveman, you want to go ahead and let everybody know how your boy been doing?
Yeah, so Derek Carr right now is not boasting the most beautiful stat line. He's got 4 passing touchdowns, 3 picks, 547 passing yards, so roughly averaging 250 and more like 265, something like that. I can't do math. Passing yards per game, 2 touchdowns per game on average, 1.5 picks per. Is that what the math checks out as? But not a great first 2 weeks, but as anticipated, the growing pains was a very good way to put it with Devontae Adams on that offense. I think is pretty much what they're experiencing at the moment. So I expect this offense to pick up. This is going to be a year where they're going to have to score a lot of points if they want to. They want to win a lot of games, and the games are only going to get tougher down the road. So they're going to see the Chargers again. They're going to see the Chiefs twice. The Denver Broncos, I assume, are going to get their head on straight to some capacity. Like, these are teams they're going to have to score a decent amount of points against if they want to take down. So I think Derek Carr is going to lead the way in that sense. And although the start doesn't look great right now, I think 547 passing yards could turn into 5,000 passing yards. So I got a lot of stock in my boy.
I like it. All right. Jake, you want to give us what your thoughts on Derek Carr are and what are your expectations for his future?
Derek Carr, again, we were talking about it. Again, I think he's just going to have to kind of come into his own a little bit more. We always see it with Derek Carr, too. He always, even no matter what coach he's at, he's always been that guy who eventually, he gets into it, and he's the guy who gets hyped up. And then you see, like, towards the end of the year, I think I talked about this with Caveman one time when we were on it. He just kind of falls off towards the end. I feel like now with a Devontae Adams, you're not going to see that fall off. And I really think right now he's just kind of getting a slow start. But I think the rest of the year they'll get it ramped up and they'll still be contending for their division for sure. That whole division will be. And yeah, that's kind of what I think about Derek Carr. I also liked that you originally selected ETN because if I would have been watching a player, it probably would have been James Robinson. I drafted him in fantasy, even though everyone's like, oh, he's gonna have to share snaps with ETN, and I'm like, look, I don't know what ETN's gonna look like coming back. It's kind of like Doug Peterson is kind of like in a let's try to win as much as we can now. Like, we've got talent. We went out and paid these guys. James Robinson kind of feels like the guy that they would have gone with, and it's paid off in fantasy wise. But I'm surprised if I were actually to take a player, and I'm not gonna hype too much on it, I would actually pick Tua, just because we already look at him enough because he's in the division. But that would be a player that I want to see, because right now he leads the league with 739 passing yards. I mean, Justus, we laughed whenever we said that, Vegas said, oh yeah, the over under is 3,800 passing yards. He's already got almost 800 already, and it's only two games. So, 7 TDs, even though 4 of those came in literally one quarter. I'd still be watching him. He's a very interesting player because his development is we kind of think we know what he is, but he's also one of those players that could change the narrative on him if possibly continues to do what he's been doing.
I think his stat line will come back down to earth.
I think so, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a little bit about Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons currently leads the league in sacks with 4. He is absolutely ripping up anything and everything defense-wise. He has played 95 snaps as an edge rusher and 24 as a linebacker in the first 2 games of the season. And he leads the NFL in pressures with 13 and is tied with Myles Garrett, for sacks with 4. Has 10 fewer snaps as a pass rusher, because remember, he also plays linebacker, so he's not even at pass rusher full time, and he's out there still, putting up the stats. I am extremely excited to see what this young man is capable of going forward. Jake, what do you think he's capable of going forward?
I think that he's an absolute stud for the Cowboys. He's probably one of the only bright spots you can really look at their team now and just kind of be like, well, if you had to pick who's the guy that you would watch the Cowboys for, he's the player that you watch the Cowboys for. I mean, maybe that's Stephon.
Zeke.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Dak guy, but he has his fans. Zeke is another guy that I literally am like. I like Tony Pollard more than I do Zeke, but that's kind of like, and that's not because I drafted him in fantasy, but that did work out for me last week. So yeah, I think that he's like kind of going to be one of those premier guys that they're going to build that defense around for years to come. Him and Trayvon Diggs probably, even though I don't think Trayvon Diggs is like amazing in coverage, but for some reason he's a ball hawk and can get interceptions. That's kind of his thing. So yeah, I love what the Cowboys have in that with a couple of pieces, even though they're not the best team right now. Those guys are going to be studs for them going forward.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry. Lost in the daydream. My apologies, guys.
He's thinking of Michael Parsons. He's like, oh man.
I'm like, just we've always wanted an edge rusher like that. To get Von Miller and to see what Von Miller has done to the makeup of this team, and the way he.
Don't get me too excited, Justus. Come on.
I'm just saying, man. He's really made. Do you guys remember last year?
Yes.
We would play like the Falcons or something, and it would be like 24-13 or something. And you're like, yo, we're better than this. Why are we
doing?
Like what is what I'm saying? Like the Steelers game, it's 16-9, or the Jaguars.
Don't bring up that Jaguars.
No,
game.
I'm even like the Saints game. Like even some games we won, it was just like, yo, why are we not like smacking them around? Because like we're way better. And this year, they are coming out and smacking people around, which will bring us to our final segment
for blood.
Bills talk, right?
Oh.
So let's go ahead and just recap Bills Titans briefly, then we'll get into a discussion about the Dolphins and what we're expecting. Caveman, Bills Titans 41-7. What were your thoughts?
I mean, there's nothing but positive to think after a game like that. It was a full team effort. We've seen 2 team efforts through 2 weeks so far. Last year, even the last few years, I feel like we've come out of games thinking like, oh man, if the defense just played well this week, we would have won this game. Or if the offense would have just pulled their weight this week, we would have won this game. If they just ever were on the same page, it would be an extremely good football team. And we've always been a very good football team over the last couple of years. But now we're at a point where both sides of the ball are playing, I would say to their utmost potential every single week. And they're doing it at the same time. So this is something that I think we've all been waiting for. And, we've been harping for it for the last year or so. And it's that edge rusher is really the final piece. Von Miller is the piece that has come in and what feels like completed the puzzle, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but just for the team and our Super Bowl aspirations. But one thing that I really was pleased to see in that Titans game specifically was Ken Dorsey. And, in the first half or first quarter specifically, we had, I think it was like 6 carries and they went for like 18 yards total. So we weren't running the ball with too much efficiency. The Titans defensive front, we knew they were going to be tough to run against. And our offensive line, they were getting bullied inside the trenches a little bit. But once the game progressed, we saw Ken Dorsey willingly get away from the ground game and not try to force a carry on 1st and 10 or on 2nd and 7 or something like that. And that's something that I felt like Brian Dable really struggled to do in his tenure here. Just out of nowhere, it's like a 2nd and 10, we're handing the ball for 1st and 10. How many 1st and 10 handoffs did we see? But even when it wasn't working. But Ken Dorsey realized, the short passing game that we're dialing up, the slow and methodical way we're moving up the field, that can suffice as the run game supplement, if you will. And I was very pleased to see that because when it's not working, the pass game is working. It's simple math. Just keep the ball in Josh Allen's hands. Let him deal to Stephon Diggs if they're going to give him space. And I want to give Ken Dorsey a lot of credit for that.
Muted.
Sorry, guys. Jake, what are your thoughts of those Titans?
Oh, man. I'm not going to go too in-depth on it because I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit on Friday, too, on Built Different. But this team is built different. So, it's the one thing that I got from this game is obviously the Titans have had our number the last couple of years, even though Josh slips on a banana peel. I kind of assume that we're going to come into this game and we have a chip on our shoulder because, I know that Sean McDermott said that he could beat Mike Vrabel's ass. He actually did, and then the Bills did it on the field, and then Bobby Hart tried to do it, going in the locker room. So they took that to heart, and I really think that of course, of course, Mike said it. Like Von Miller was kind of like that piece, and to talk about Ken Dorsey. We all kind of assumed, I said it before, I would love to see Ken Dorsey have a really awesome melding of what Brian Daboll did in the past game, but with more efficient running. This isn't Brian Daboll. Like it's not. It's something completely different. It's more akin to Shanahan than it might be like with these weird sets and using a fullback and like Reggie Gilliam. We're looking at it. We're like, I know people like let's talk about like fullbacks matter. Like it was a movement. Like now it's kind of like oh yeah, Reggie Gilliam matters. Like this is something like that's something that Ken Dorsey took to heart. And it's kind of like, all right, we're seeing a lot more creative sets, like formation. It's a beautiful thing. Like it almost feels like these teams don't know what's coming. Like it's not your typical like normal play calling. Maybe that's just because it's a first year play caller and nobody really has much tape on what a Ken Dorsey offense looks like just yet. But right now, it looks unbelievable. The defense, of course, absolutely real. The one negative I have of the game is just all the damn injuries, but you can't control that. And just like the team overall just looks like they're in a headspace where it feels like they always kind of say, coaches, like treat every game like you're playing in like a playoff game. It's like a win or go home. It's 1-0. Let's go. They're actually playing like that. Like they're 100% all the time. And I feel like that comes from games like you brought up where sometimes at the end of the year, it was kind of like, why are these games so close? Why are we losing to the Jaguars, giving Urban Meyer his only win as a coach? Why are the Falcons still hanging in this game? Those are the kind of games where I think the Bills just don't want that anymore. They're like, no, we're going to go out there and we're going to show you what this team looks like on full firepower. And what that resulted in is an absolute domination of a team that was the number 1 seed last year. And halfway through the third quarter, they pulled their starting quarterback. We pulled our starting quarterback. And it was basically garbage time for about the last 20 minutes of that game. And so it was an absolute beautiful thing. And I think the Bills are just, they're on a different planet right now, it seems like. And hopefully they're not peaking too early because I would hate to see it. I hope this team continues to do this for the rest of the season.
Definitely don't want this team peaking early. But the hope is that this team is just so good that, they can be dominant without burning out.
Yeah.
Much like the Chiefs did in that 15-1 year, or like the Patriots did in their 16-0 season. So, those are the things you're hoping for. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to the Miami Dolphins. Caveman, we talked about it. Jake said it. This offense looks a lot more potent under Ken Dorsey than it did under Brian Daboll. Did Brian Daboll get him right? Absolutely. Put him in positions to succeed? Absolutely. Ken Dorsey is doing all that and then keeping his foot on the pedal. What chance do the Dolphins have to win this game, and what is their path to victory?
I mean, I had my preseason prediction included one loss to the Dolphins. I can't remember if it was this game or the second one, but
this one is in Miami.
Miami
in Buffalo and cold. So
yeah, true. I mean, I just don't think if the Buffalo Bills come out and play the way that we've played over the last 2 weeks, nobody's beating us. The Miami Dolphins, as good as they looked, they'll give us a fight. But like I said, there's nobody that is taking down a team that looks like they have the best offense in football, while at the same time having what looks like a Super Bowl caliber pass rush, similar to what I every single time I see our pass rush go after a quarterback on 2nd and long or 3rd and long, it reminds me of what Patrick Mahomes was dealing with against the Buccaneers defensive front that Super Bowl a couple years ago. I get flashbacks watching that game when I watch our defensive front over the last 2 weeks. That's the type of dominance we're playing with. And, if you're not an athletic quarterback and Tua's far from a mobile passer, you're going to have a hard time. So, like I said, I think this game is only winnable if the Buffalo Bills come out and, they look lesser than what we've seen over the last 2 weeks. It's honestly the only path to victory that I see for the Miami Dolphins. There's just no chance.
What you're saying is the only team that can beat the Buffalo Bills on Sunday is the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. 100%.
I like it. All right. Jake, we look at, the Dolphins. We see Tua being able to get the ball to Waddle, being able to get the ball to Tyreek Hill. Defense looking somewhat competent, I guess you could say. Now we look at, well, actually, no, they didn't. They looked actually extremely awful versus the Ravens, at least. And you could say that they look pretty good against the Patriots, but the Patriots' offense isn't.
That's a pedestrian offense if we ever
exactly.
Had to
So
say so.
last 2 games, Josh Allen has scored 75 points on his team. I can't remember what the Dolphins scored. Was it 17 or something like that? I think they had 17 in one game, and then they got zipped in the other game. So 75-17, let's call it.
Let's just
like what are they supposed to do?
Okay, so I'll leave this for us to go.
You know what? I got a better question for you. Shout out to my man Richard Rush. Loved meeting you, bro. You are absolutely awesome. Are you worried about the injuries, and will that play a factor in the Dolphins potentially coming in?
So I'm worried a little bit. And Richard, that was kind of actually going to be the thing that I touched on more. We'll talk more semantics on Friday, but I really feel that like the path to this game is that the Dolphins just hang in there, right? That's kind of their thing. Is I feel like the Bills, they're going to play, especially we've seen it when they play guys like Tyreek Hill and Walt. They play back. Like if their guys aren't, you're not going to play man to man on those guys. So I think that, you're going to have Benford and you're going to have Kyer out there. Those are probably going to be your guys. I know people are going to hold out hope for Dane Jackson, but he did not participate. And same thing with Micah. They're going to be very diligent with those guys with neck injuries. I don't think you're going to miss so much of a beat when you have to play Jaquan Johnson or DeMar Hamlin. They've said like just before that the offense doesn't miss a beat. Obviously, we don't know. We haven't seen enough of those guys yet to see if they truly are, able to just plug and play. They've had their moments, and we're going to see, because this week, if the Dolphins can just hang in there and just pull something out, I could see them possibly just trying to hang in here with the Bills, but the injuries are kind of the only reason why I would say that. But our pass rush is still going to be fine. Daquan Jones is going to be there. Gregory Rousseau, Von Miller, Ed Oliver. The only reason he didn't play last week is so that they would have him for this game. They're just being cautious with that. So I have a feeling he's going to be there. Our pass rush is going to be just fine. Again, if you look at Tua's stats, whenever you get pressure on Tua and he has less than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, his completion percentage absolutely gets destroyed. So I think that that's kind of going to be the main thing. Get the pressure up front with those guys. That's going to help your young guys on the back end that are having to fill in some of these positions. And I think that the Dolphins, I can't say that their offense, Tua threw 6 touchdowns. 4 of them came in the fourth quarter. He still threw the touchdowns. I can't take that away from Tua, but if I look at what they played against when they played the Patriots, like if that's the two we're going to get, they had all the same guys. It's not like those guys weren't there. When they played the Patriots, Tua only had 1 offensive touchdown, like passing touchdown. So like they play the Ravens, and 4 of the 6 touchdowns come in the fourth quarter when the Ravens give up. I'm not looking at this offense going, oh my God, this is so scary. Like, they've got 2 burner receivers, but I think that we're going to game plan for them. And they're going to try to minimize their impact as much as possible, try to get to Tua. And I think the only chance that they have is just injuries kind of plaguing this defense a little bit, to where it gives them a bit more time to take advantage of some younger guys. But outside of that, I think the Bills just on all fronts are that team. And I don't see this being too much of a challenge for them, even though like Tua looked damn good last week. But I mean, you can talk about that all you want. So there's a bunch of different factors going into it, but the Bills should win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't say anything wrong. Tua did play well fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And that quarter won him the game, so that's all that matters, right? of course, that was versus a depleted defense and some blown coverage. But neither here nor there. They won the game. They did what they had to do. They're 2-0, so we'll see what the Buffalo Bills can do versus the Miami Dolphins this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have on the list. Do you have anything else that I missed, K-Man?
No, I think we're good to go.
Yeah. All right, guys. So make sure you guys tune in every single week to Sunday in February. That is Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Make sure you go subscribe to my man Caveman's YouTube channel. He has this awesome show called The Cave, and it's going on. It's one of my favorite shows. And obviously, he's one of my favorite people. Of course, we got my man Jake Jordan. His podcast started back up. My other partner in crime. Make sure you go check out The Lowdown every single Friday. And also tune in to Build Different every single Friday at 9 p.m. And watch Justice for All tomorrow, 9 p.m. Anytime you want to see me, just tune in at 9 p.m. But guys, this has been fun. It has been an absolutely glorious week. Watching our team stalk the Titans, and now we get the fish that Josh Allen is 7-0 in the last 7 against, and has like 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and all these gaudy numbers. So we'll see what that looks like this coming Sunday. But for my man Jake Jordan, for Mike the Caveman Lisman, I'm Justice General Radford. This is the official network of the original Bills Mafia, and we are we're not out yet, because I want to thank you guys for every comment, like, subscription, retweet, repost, share, everything you guys do. We appreciate it all. You guys know we do this for you. And with that being said, this is the official network of the original Bills Mafia, and now we are out. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.